He played a key role in the Great American's history, even appearing in the final fight to deliver a huge guitar smash to the short American. But who really is Pimpinela Escarlata? Why has her character grown in popularity lately, and why is absolutely everyone loving her more and more? In this video, you'll learn her story, her childhood, all the barriers she had to break down, barriers that were created purely by discrimination. To really dive into Pimpi's life, you have to understand that her story isn't just that of an athlete, but of a survivor who used the ring canvas to heal the wounds of an extremely cruel childhood. Future WWE superstars, how's everyone doing? I'm Diego Aranis, and this is a new video. Today, my friends, we have a truly incredible episode of biographies because today it's Pimpinela Escarlata's turn. Our beloved Pimpi isn't just loved in Latin America, but all over the world now. I've even seen comments in English, and that's because her character is truly amazing. Her style and charisma are really incredible. I watched some interviews, and she has a unique humility. Pimpinela Escarlata has surprised me in the ring, but I was also surprised while writing the text for this biography, where I was really shocked by the bullying and how harsh her childhood was. She has ultimately shown incredible strength, taking all that childhood pain and finally channeling it in the ring. I'll stop talking now, I just ask you to follow me on Instagram, and with nothing more to say, let's get right into the biography of our beloved Pimpi, Pimpinela Escarlata. Who portrays our beloved Pimpinela Escarlata? Escarlata is Mario González, who was born on April 18, 1969 in Delicias, Chihuahua, but his identity was forged in the Comarca Lagunera. He grew up in a home led solely by his mother, Mrs. Socorro Lozano, who worked exhausting hours washing and ironing clothes for others to feed Mario and his siblings. His father's abandonment left a deep wound in his small family, but the real hell for Mario would unfold on the streets and at school. Since he was 6 years old, Mario showed mannerisms and a sensitivity different from other boys his age, this in the heart of Mexico in the 1970s. This made him the target of ruthless bullying. His classmates and neighbors would chase him, insult him with derogatory words, and beat him up frequently. Mario would run home crying, seeking the protection of a mother who, overwhelmed by poverty and the conservatism of the time, didn't always know how to handle the situation. At the age of 12, the tension exploded. A friend from the neighborhood gave him a homemade tattoo of the Playboy bunny silhouette logo. Using India ink and a needle tied to a thread, Mario ended up with that tattoo. When his family discovered the tattoo and confronted his identity, the situation became unsustainable and Mario was kicked out of his home. With just a change of clothes and a few pesos, he boarded a bus to the dangerous border of Ciudad Juarez. There, his real school of survival began. With no money for decent housing, he ended up sleeping in communal neighborhood rooms and even outdoors, enduring the freezing temperatures of the Juarez winter. To eat, Mario entered the world of construction as a mason's helper, carrying bags of cement and mixing sand, working in carpentry, assembling structures for sofas. And later he started working at Las Pelsas, operating heavy machinery during desperate 12-hour night shifts. These experiences, far from breaking him, toughened his body and his character. Mario discovered that he had amazing physical endurance and a very high pain threshold.
Qualities that years later would become his best weapon in the ring.
At the age of 15, during a temporary stay in Torreon, the husband of one of his sisters, a local wrestler in Lagunero, noticed that Mario was accumulating a lot of anger and frustration and decided to take him to a wrestling gym. The goal wasn't for him to go pro, but to learn self-defense against people who attacked him on the street. There, he came under the guidance of Hector Lopez and the renowned Alcon Suriano, one of the school's strictest and most respected submission masters. The training at that time was brutal. Hours of push-ups, squats, the wrestler's bridge, which would destroy your neck if done wrong, and painful submissions right on the mat. Many young men would quit after the first week because of the bruises and dislocations. Mario didn't. For him, the pain from the gym was 1,000 times better than the pain of being humiliated on the street. Suriano noticed that the young man had natural flexibility and agility. His joints could withstand the punishment, and his speed when bouncing off the ropes was amazing. At 19 years old, he would make his official debut, and it would be at Arena Querétaro. Mario stepped into the ring with a mask and gear that concealed his identity.
His name was Flyboy.
However, his body language gave him away. Although he tried to fight in a rough or traditional technical way, when he walked or dodged a blow, he made stylized gestures. The audience, sensing this, began shouting homophobic insults at him. Mario, instead of backing down, responded with charisma. But when he decided to take off the mask voluntarily, he started calling himself Pantera Rosa, because if people wanted to see an Exotico, he would give them the best. He made himself a tight pink suit. The reaction was immediate. The crowd booed him, but the arenas started to fill up to see him. The big breakthrough came when he crossed paths with Rudy Reyna, the most important Exotico in the region at that time. Reyna saw Mario and said to him, "You have talent, but your name is too generic. From now on, you'll be called
Pimpinela Escarlata.
The name referred to the flower González arvensis, but above all to the literary hero created by Baroness Orczy, an aristocrat who seemed frivolous on the outside, but was a deadly warrior in the shadows. In 1991, Rudy Reyna joined Pimpinela with another young talent from the region,
Mayflowers.
a wrestler of enormous height and strength. Together with Reyna himself, they founded the faction called the Locus del 91. Monterrey was known for having the toughest, rowdiest, and most demanding fans in the north of the country. When the Locus del 91 arrived at the Coliseo Arena in Monterrey, the promoter looked at them with disdain in the locker room because of their sequin robes, fake eyelashes, and heavy makeup. He refused to let them get on the main ring, arguing that it was a family show for strong men. Pimpinela confronted him politely, but firmly. "Let us go up for the first round. If people don't like it, take us down and don't pay us a single peso." What happened that night became part of Monterrey's history. As soon as the whistle blew, Pimpinela and Mayflowers didn't resort to cheap comedy. They showed flawless grappling, suicidal dives outside the ring, and tough holds that left the local wrestlers bleeding. The crowd was amazed. They went from insults to amazement, and from the shadows to a standing ovation. They ended the show being carried out on shoulders. In 1992, Antonio Peña broke away from Consejo Mundial to found Triple AAA. Peña wanted television, drama, vibrant colors, and characters that connected with everyday Mexicans. In 1993, Peña signed Pimpinela Escarlata and gave him a national platform on Televisa, unlike Consejo Mundial, where the Exoticos were seen as a comedic sideshow in the second or third match. Peña placed Pimpinela in main events and semi-main events. It was here that the psychology of his character in the ring was refined. Pimpinela didn't just walk to the ring, he did a full runway walk, interacting with the men in the front rows, often scaring them or stealing kisses, and giving flowers to the women. He created one of the catchiest phrases on Mexican television in the 90s. When a giant heel like Abismo Negro or Cybernetico tried to intimidate him, Pimpinela would look at the camera, shrug his shoulders, and say in a high-pitched voice, "I'm scared, meow," making the audience burst out laughing. Before surprising his opponent with a slap or a trip, the distraction kiss was used as a legitimate technical move within the wrestling narrative. When the referee wasn't looking or the opponent was about to deliver a finishing move, Pimpinela would plant a kiss on his opponent's lips, leaving him in a state of shock and confusion, which Pimpi took advantage of to roll him up and win with a 3 count. Pimpinela's career wasn't just about laughs. Behind the makeup, there were ultra-violent battles that ended with the ring stained red. For years, Pimpinela had a fierce rivalry with his own creator, Rudy Reyna, and also with Mayflowers, when the latter switched sides. These hair-on-the-line matches were real human bloodbaths. Far from the delicacy of their costumes, they ended up with their masks torn, foreheads split open by metal chairs, and hair covered in blood. Pimpinela shaved Rudy Reyna's head in a battle that cemented the generational shift. After that came the clashes of eras between Pimpinela and Cassandro. Cassandro represented the style of an Exotico, glamorous, technical, and international. Although they were friends outside the ring, the competition to be #1 in the country led them to face each other from opposite corners in independent arenas and venues on the outskirts. Their one-on-one matches were masterclasses in Olympic and Greco-Roman wrestling, designed to silence the purists who criticized their lifestyles. One of the most bitter defeats of his life happened in Aguascalientes during the 2011 Rey de Reyes event. Pimpinela entered a relentless cage match where the last one to leave would lose their hair. In the final moments, he was left one-on-one with the extreme wrestler Sexy Star. After taking a hard beating with foreign objects, Pimpinela couldn't climb the structure in time. Seeing a legend like Pimpinela Escarlata crying in the center of the ring while the barber shaved his iconic hair was one of the most dramatic moments of the modern era of Triple AET. Triple AET had the Reina de Reinas Championship, which was created exclusively for the company's women's division and has been held by historic figures like Xochitl Amada, Tiffany, or Ayako Amada. However, in the late 2000s and early 2010s, Pimpinela's popularity was at an all-time high that Antonio Peña and later Joaquin Roldan decided to include him in the qualifiers. Because contractually and by tradition, the Exoticos sometimes move between the two divisions to create compelling rivalries. On July 30, 2011, at an event held in Tuxtla Gutierrez, Chiapas, Pimpinela Escarlata defeated the then-champion Mary Apache in a highly technical match. This victory sparked an intense debate among the sport's purists. Was it right for a man to win the women's championship? For the LGBTQ community and fans of modernized wrestling, it was seen as a historic triumph of inclusion, and a recognition of the fact that Pimpinela had spent decades facing women, minis, exoticos, and heavyweights alike. He held the title for 147 days before losing it to Sexy Star. Outside the television spotlight, Mario González Lozano earned a reputation as one of the most disciplined, polite, and kind men in the business, an environment that often devours people due to the vices of life on the road. Unlike many of his peers from his generation who fell into alcoholism or became addicted to painkillers to cope with the pain from the blows, Mario stayed clean. His only known and healthy hobby during long tours in the United States or northern Mexico is visiting casinos to play slot machines or spending time in shopping malls looking for fabrics exclusively for his suits. A large part of the spectacular suits with fringes, sequins, feathers, and shoulder pads used in the Triple Manaya events are designed and sometimes even sewn by him or by tailors he absolutely trusts in Torreon. Each suit can cost thousands of Mexican pesos due to the quality of the materials. With the money he earned in his best years in Triple AET, Mario bought a house for his mother and made sure she never had to work again. For him, the success of wrestling was not to buy personal luxuries, but to make sure his family would never experience the extreme poverty of his childhood again. As Mexican wrestling began to be consumed globally thanks to the internet, social media, and streaming platforms, Pimpinela's work was rediscovered by fans in the United States, Japan, and Europe, who were amazed by his longevity and charisma. His appearance in the Copa Vardado at Triple Mania 33 was the culmination of this belated but well-deserved recognition. Seeing international executives of the caliber of Triple H, a man trained in the strict North American wrestling tradition, watch with attention and absolute respect, Pimpinela Escarlata's command of the crowd showed that the language of charisma is universal. Nowadays, Pimpinela Escarlata is not just a wrestler who made a name for himself in the rivalry with the big Americans, let alone for landing a huge chair shot on the short guy. Pimpinela Escarlata is not just an active wrestler who continues to travel through the independent arenas of Mexico. He is a living treasure of Mexican popular culture, the man who turned insults from the crowd into the loudest applause of the night. That is Pimpinela Escarlata.